You can always pause this to read it. Please take the time to subscribe to all these channels. They're really great channels. You'll learn a lot. I just get tired of typing all this stuff all the time, and that's why I'm recording it. Hey everybody, it's Mark again, and this video is probably helpful to a lot of you, but if you're new to my channel, welcome. Please hit the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, leave me comments. But this video is going to pertain to if you just bought a cuckoo clock. It might be your first one, or it might be your second, or it might be 50 clocks from now. And you just bought a cuckoo clock and you want to hang it on the wall. And this video is going to cover some do's and don'ts of hanging your cuckoo clock up. So kick back, relax, grab something to eat, grab something to drink, grab something to smoke if you choose to do so, and let's learn things. And for those folks who are new to my channel, I have over 200 beginner video series on learning cuckoo clock repair. So once you're on my channel, just search beginner and you'll find all those videos. So you got the clock out of the box and you unwrapped everything, and there should be a pendulum. This piece right here is called a bob. It slides up and down. Lower to slower is what I tell people. It like I said, you hold the stick and it slides up and down. The bob slides up and down the stick. You start off in the middle. If your clock is running too fast, lower it. Lower it just a little bit at a time, and before too long, you'll be able to regulate it to within a few minutes a day or seconds, depending on how slow. It depends on lots of things. If you have a clock that is close to a door, an outside door, your clock speed could change with weather. This piece right here is what hangs on the pendulum leader wire. This wire right here is called a leader wire, and this hangs on the leader wire with the bob pointing out toward the clock so you could see it nice and pretty. But you're just getting this clock out of the box. If the person, and it doesn't matter whether it's a brand new clock or a clock that you bought off of Marketplace or off of eBay, if the person knows what they're doing, they're going to put the chains in a bag or tape them up. And you want to take the chains out of the bag. The chain should have been wound up, and you want to inspect every loop of the chain to make sure that it didn't get damaged in shipping. And what I do is I just run the chain through my fingers, and if there's one that's damaged, you're going to feel it. The chains might have got tied in a knot. You'll have to unravel the chains. The people that know how to ship clocks, they're going to put a bread tie, a string, or a wire through the chain. That way the chain didn't come off its wheel, its main wheel. This right here is the original nighttime shutoff lever. They went to a different system, but this wire, which is also used for a shipping wire, that way the door doesn't come open, was the original nighttime shutoff lever. And the reason, my personal opinion, the reason why they went to a different system is because a lot of time these wires would come out of the hole and people complained. The hands should already be on, but if they're not, they're really simple to put on. I'm going to take them off just to show you how simple they are to put on. Now, if it's a Herbert Hur or an antique cuckoo clock, your minute hole is going to be a square hole hand. But on a regular clock, and I'm taking these off just to show you how to set the hands. The shorter hand is the hour hand. It goes down first. If it's a square hole arbor, an antique cuckoo clock, or a Herbert Hur cuckoo clock, the square hole hand, this would be a square hole versus a round hand, goes on next. Then a threaded collar goes on, and then finally the decorative nut. But because this is a vintage clock, you have to find this piece right here, which is square hole, and it's raised. You want the raised section pointing towards you. So stick it down with the raised section pointed towards you, and then your round hole minute hand, and it doesn't matter at this point where it goes, and then a washer goes down, and then this nut. And you would tighten that up just enough when you turn the minute hand that the hour hand turns also. And again, I don't care where it is right now. The topper should have been wrapped separately, and this is the topper for this particular clock. This is the topper for this particular clock. You would want to set up in this case, the antlers, the way they look pretty. And then you would figure out how the topper goes on. Some of them are totally different. Some of them, stand by so I could show you what I'm wanting to show you. Here's a different kind of topper, and it just, I always tighten the screws up after I put the topper on. That way I know the topper is not going to come off. But this topper here pushes on. And there's a wire hook that goes through an eyelet. Let me take it off. With this kind of topper, it has this clip. And you might have to close the clip, or you might have to open the clip for it to slide onto the wood. And then it has this eyelet. If they have this type of system, a lot of times they'll have a hook that goes into the eyelet, but it's not necessarily, it depends on how big your clock is. And this is a pretty big clock, and you just push those clips onto the roof of the wood. And it's hard for me to do this one-handed. Hopefully I don't break anything in the process. And once they're on, you connect this hook to that eyelet. And then I close the hook a little bit myself. And the reason I close the eyelet, if while I'm hanging up this clock, if for some reason the topper gets bumped and comes off, it won't drop on the floor, or it shouldn't drop on the floor. And not all clocks have toppers. This is a chalet cuckoo clock, and it doesn't have a topper. But once you figure out how to put your topper on, and I don't want to break anything, so that's why I'm protecting. This is a back door. You notice it has a couple holes in this back door. Never, ever, ever hang your clock up onto the wall using one of these holes, because your door will come open, because the only thing that's keeping this door closed is this flimsy little keeper here. This hole right here, which is in the upper section, the very most upper section of your clock, that's where you hang your clock. However, you want to gently tug on this, because if the glue has came loose, or staples that hold this top 1/3 section on, your clock will fall off the wall eventually, because this isn't secured. So tug on this thing gently to make sure it's secured. If it's not secured, glue it, staple it, whatever it takes to make sure it's secured. Now, you will notice that this clock is maybe a 1/4 of an inch thick. And this clock was made in, it was made after 1970, because it has a date code on it. But that antique clock there, it's 3/4 of an inch thick. What I'm getting at, you want to put your screw, I use sheetrock screws myself, and you want to put it into a stud of the wall. If you can't find a stud, use wall anchors such as this, which hold up to 105 pounds. But leave enough of that screw coming out so it goes all the way through the clock. If it only goes halfway through that hole of that clock, your clock will fall when you go to wind it. So make sure that this head is sticking through all the way through the case of the clock. And again, if you don't have a stud, use these, for example, this type of wall anchor to hold your clock. And when you have as many clocks in your house as I do you think every one of those clocks is in a stud? I could tell you right now they're not, but I have those wall anchors that hold up to 105 pounds that I'm comfortable with. Getting back to the clock. Again, if this is a brand new clock or it's being shipped by somebody who knows what the heck they're doing, you open up this back door and both bellows is going to have some kind of clip that keeps the bellow closed in shipping. Make sure that you take that clip out of the clock or your clock will not cuckoo. And sometimes this wire right here, which lifts the bird's tail, it gets on top of the bird's. So this wire has to be underneath the bird And you see how much space there is between the wire and the bird. It should not be resting on the bird, or the bird will have trouble coming back into the clock. Now, this clock happens to have a modern nighttime shutoff lever. To activate this system, you push this rod up. When you push this rod up, there's a piece behind this piece of metal right here. There's a post that is it's called the lift lock lever. When you push up this wire, it pushes that lift lock lever away from the rack and snail, and I'm not going to get into that detail, but your clock will not cuckoo and it will not play music as long as this is pushed up. There are some that are on the side. You lift up or you lift up or you lift down. When you lift it up, it shuts it off. Here, it tells you pushing it up is off, pulling it down is on. So you have to make sure, if you want it to cuckoo and play music, that your nighttime shutoff lever has not been tripped. But you put the door back on. Oh, also, the pendulum leader wire, which again is this wire right here, it has to hang natural. This piece of wire right here is called a B wire. If the pendulum leader wire is up in the air like that, your clock will not function properly. So in shipping, it might have been pushed up in the air like that. Pull it down, let it hang natural, just like that. And then once you have the clips off, you make sure that the bird wire that lifts the bird is underneath the bird. Go ahead and put the door back on. There is a groove at the bottom of the case, and at the bottom of the door, this slot goes into that groove, and once you get it in correctly, it's flush with the back section. You go ahead and push this clip down. You might have 2 clips to push down. And if that clip is loose, just take a hammer and lightly tap to tighten up the nail. So we discussed this wire, or it could be a bread tie, or it could be a string. You are going to want to undo that wire to pull it through. Again, the people that know how to ship cuckoo clocks, they're going to use some type of system to keep the chains from going over the great wheel. And since I mentioned, I'll go ahead and open the back door and show you. This is the time side great wheel. Over here is the strike side great wheel. If your chain has came off, search chains on my channel, and I have videos out there that show you how to put a chain back on. Now, if your clock is got 3 weights to it, it could be a cuckoo quail clock, it could be a cuckoo music clock. You'll have to make sure that all 3 chains are pulled up, and this hook right here is where you hang your weight, but we're not doing that yet. So make sure you gently pull on the chain. Do not put a lot of pressure on this. If you have to put a lot of pressure on this, there's something wrong. When I pull on this, you'll see the pendulum leader wire swing back and forth. That means it's on correctly. If I was to pull on this and then rotate the hands, you're going to hear it cuckoo, as long as the nighttime shutoff lever is not activated. And it's not cuckooing, and I think that the nighttime shutoff lever I forgot the door on the front. See, it didn't cuckoo. I did that to show you that this was originally the nighttime shutoff lever. So when I move this away so the door can open, now when I pull on that chain, it's going to cuckoo. And again, I got the chain hook down. You lightly pull on the chain and it will put that hook back in where it needs to be. So I'm putting the door on now. We have our screw in a stud or an anchor, and it sticks out, in this case, about an inch from the wall. If you have an antique clock, it might need to stick out further. And the reason I use sheetrock screws is because A, they fit through this hole, and B, the head is big enough that when it goes through that hole, your clock is not going to come off the wall. If you're using a finishing nail or a screw with a small head on it, when you go to wind the clock, it's a good chance that the clock is going to come off that screw and come crashing to the floor. So we have the clock topper on. We pulled up the chains. We removed all shipping parts, such as the wire that held the chain into place. We have our screw in place. And this is going to be hard for me to do this on camera, but if you open up this door, you will see the hole that screw fits in right there. If you just line it up with that screw, you'll be able to put the clock onto the wall. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do this on camera, so I'm going to put this clock on the wall, and I'll get right back with you. The clock is hanging on the wall. You will notice I don't have any weights, and I don't have the pendulum on. If this is a musical cuckoo clock, your heaviest weight goes on the music system. These days, when you buy a brand new cuckoo clock, they will send you 3 of the same size weights. I don't know when they swapped it, but in 1998, I bought my very first cuckoo clock. I wasn't collecting clocks. It was a one-day musical cuckoo clock. Bought it brand new in Kapan Air Base, Germany, when I was at the NCO Academy for an anniversary present for my ex-wife. It came with 2 275-gram weights and 1 320-gram weight. The 320-gram weight went on the music side. And an antler came off of that right deer while I was showing y'all. I'll have to put it back on later. But, so now I'm going to put the weights on the hooks. And I'm going to put them both on. It doesn't matter. You see how that pendulum leader wire is not swinging? I tilted this clock for a reason. When I tilt the clock one way or the other, that pendulum leader wire is going to start swinging if it's a one-day cuckoo clock. It's swinging back and forth, and I put my finger next to it, not too close. If I put it too close, it stops. But next to it, the pendulum leader wire is touching my finger, and it continues to swing. Once you get that to where it touches your finger and continues to swing, you can put the pendulum on. Your clock is in beat. If it's an 8-day clock, you might have to push that pendulum leader wire to get it to swing to start with. So now I got the hands all screwed up because I wanted to show you what to do in this video. Again, this is a round hole minute hand. So I'm going to rotate the minute hand. Always, always, always rotate the minute hand in a clockwise position. For people who don't understand what I'm saying, clockwise is going from 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9 in a right position. Going slow. See it cuckooed one time. Now I'm going to assume that's the half hour. So I loosen this nut just a little bit, and I'm going to have to do it off camera, so stand by. I loosen the nut just enough for the hand to drop. That's the half hour position. So now I'm going to tighten that nut off camera. So I got the nut tight. And now I'm going to rotate the minute hand in a clockwise position, and it should cuckoo when the minute hand is at the 12. It didn't I was counting, that was 10. It didn't because I had the clock running while I was talking to y'all and adjusting the hands. That, I believe, was 10. I'm going to rotate the hour hand, which is the shorter's hand, whichever direction I feel like it, and I'm going to put it at the 10. The minute hand, I have to loosen that nut, put the hand where I want it, and then tighten that nut. So I'm going to do that off camera. And I had the pendulum stopped so I can adjust the hand. So I think I have the hand where I want it. This time, it should cuckoo where that minute hand is right there on the 6. And I'm going slow. I'm not quite there. I'm going to adjust a little bit more. Again, this is a one-day cuckoo clock. I'm going to count the numbers this time. It was 11 o'clock. It is 8:20 here. If I wasn't holding this camera with one finger, I would keep the door closed. With the other finger, well, I can do it like this. It's 8:20. The first time it cuckoos is going to be off. I'm going to stop at 7 just to show y'all what I'm talking about. in rotating the minute hand in a clockwise position. It cuckooed 12 times. And I told you the first time it cuckooed, it was going to be off. Now it's going to catch up with itself. This is 7:30, and this is going to be 8 o'clock. Which count? Eight o'clock. It's 8:20. I start the pendulum. I'm going to pull the chain so the weight goes all the way up to the top. My clock is set. It should continue running. If this was an antique clock, you're going to have to do things a little bit differently. This is an antique cuckoo quail clock made around 1900. I left for a couple days. I'm just getting back. I have to set all my clocks. Minute hand rotating in a clockwise position. The gong hammer I don't have quite adjusted properly, so it sounds like crap. That was a 3/4 of the hour. Here comes the hour. It cuckooed 10 times. So I could either put it at 10, wait for 10 o'clock and start the pendulum, but because it's 8:20, I can put the hour hand where I want it, and it's at 8 o'clock. On the side of the cuckoo, there's a door, and then there's a wire. You push that wire, and it's going to advance the cuckoo. That was 11. This is 12. That was 12. I got to do that 8 more times to catch up to 8 o'clock. That was 1. That was 2. That was 3. 4. 5. 6. That was 7. That was 8. I'm going to go ahead and wind up the chain. And now I'm going to rotate the minute hand. And I'm going to stop for the quail to do its thing. That was 8:15. And now it's 8:35 here. So I got to stop at the half hour. $8:35, start the pendulum. And by the way, when I take this pendulum off, you're going to see that leader wire swing back and forth. And if I was to put my finger here, it's touching my finger and continue to swing, so I know that the clock is in beat. I just add the pendulum give it a swing, and it's going to stay running. Again, antique clocks are different from vintage clocks. Minute hole hand, square hole minute hands are different from round hole minute hands. I hope this video has helped. Leave me some comments. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to not only my channel, but to the other channels that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. And may God bless.